Hello and welcome. I'm Lloyd, and this is the Dressing Gown Diary. Preview of the 2026 Nations, the greatest rugby tournament on the planet. Some of you music aficionados might notice the music in the background. It is Roger Sanchez, another chance, because all teams start from zero. They've all got equal opportunities. Italy might struggle, but the other teams in the competition will back themselves to win, back themselves to drive forward. What's success? What's failure? Let's go through it. We'll cut through the meat and the bones in this position of where teams need to be. Let's start off looking at the Ireland-Wales game, which is the opening of the Six Nations for this season. Ireland had an awesome autumn. They dispatched Argentina, comfortably beat New Zealand. They're on a 9-win streak now. The last losses they had were away in Paris and away in Cardiff at the start of the Six Nations last year. So they've won 3 Six Nations games on the bounce through the summer and the autumn. They really have got into their groove. Farrell has got them firing. They've got a power game up front. They keep the ball, and then they found some invention behind. Bundy Aki obviously brings the power in the midfield. So it'll be interesting to see how Ireland go. Wales, they've made some changes. There's a few players injured. Obviously, Alwyn Jones is out injured, so Dan Biggar comes in as captain. A stalwart of Welsh rugby, performed really well. I'm always a bit minded that sometimes he can be a bit limited, and we'll see how tight the game plan is that Wales bring forward. Josh Adams slips into 13 due to injuries. It's a real shame that George North, having excelled at 13 previously, has been injured basically since that period where he played really well in the 13 channel for Wales. So what's success and failure? Well, Wales have got a tough opening, obviously away in Ireland and then at home against Scotland. They could be looking at the Italy game last up thinking, this is our only win. Could be that way, but they are the Six Nations champions and they were a moment away from winning the Grand Slam, but Grand Slams are hard to come by. What will Ireland be looking at? They'll be looking at the fixture away at Twickenham thinking, well, that's a tough ask. So this first game for both teams is tricky. It doesn't really matter how you do it, what the performance level is like. It's all about the big W. They won't care how you get there. One will be thinking, right, Grand Slam's on. The other will be thinking, how on earth do I rescue this season? A very, very tough game. Second game, the Calcutta Cup. Edinburgh hosting. Obviously, Nicola Sturgeon finally realised that Omicron is way gone and you just need to get on. Allow the Scots to sing loud and proud. Get the proclaimers on. And I would work 500. All of that will be going. The bagpipes will be blaring. There's no doubt going to be one on top of the stand, which Scotland, when they're hosting, quite often do. Interestingly, though, Scotland have turned into a little bit of a bogey team for England. England are only victorious in one of the last 4 games. So they obviously drew the 38 all game and lost the last when they last hosted at Twickenham last season. Scotland will reflect last year on how they didn't do better. They lost all their home games but won all their away games in Paris and Twickenham. Normally, if you win those games, you'd be thinking a Grand Slam's on the card. So it's certainly a tough ask. Scotland will be hoping, I suppose, to improve. Can they get 3 wins? Can they sneak 4? This is certainly one that they'd be targeting at home, thinking, yeah, look, we can step this up, England. Eddie Jones has been caught in a position where he didn't need to make a decision because Farrell has been injured. So he goes with Marcus Smith at 10. Can England be flexible in their game plan, though, to release someone so... he's so enigmatic and so creative, but are England going to offer a structured game plan that doesn't allow him to do that and play off the cuff? He is an enigma. You need to release him. Great to see Sam Simmonds in the lineup, but not as a Welshman, but as a rugby fan. You know, Simmonds and Smith have been so good in the Premiership now for some time. Both obviously made appearances in the Lions tour. But what kind of game plan are England going to produce? Seeing Elliot Daly at 13 as well. I know the Mayminator was a bit disappointed to see that or surprised. But I actually think it's not a bad shout. He did quite well there in the Lions tour. He's a great footballer, so he should be okay. But we'll see. The Scottish backline, Harris, I'm always a big fan. His defence is very good. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys square off against each other. The final game of the weekend on Sunday sees France host Italy and the Giuseppe Garibaldi Trophy. Italy. Are they going to progress? They haven't won a game since 2015 against Scotland. They last beat France in 2013. Are we just destined to see them whitewashed again? Or are there seeds of growth? Those that follow rugby below international level might see that our under 18s and under 21 level, Italy have actually progressed quite well. They are not losing many games, and now some of those players are moving into the senior setup. So we're seeing Paolo Garbesi and Varney, the 9 and 10, that's starting to orchestrate the way Italy play. Is it a little too soon for them? Can they progress? I mean, the bookmakers think it's an absolute done deal. They're offering 34.5 points on Italy. France first up is no easy game for anyone, let alone Italy, who haven't won in the Six Nations since 2015. You've got to rub that down as a home win and an easy one. So, France, who's going to win? France are certainly up there. They host England in the last game. They'll be looking at that thinking this may be a Grand Slam decider, and England will be doing the same. Ireland are probably the strongest team, I think, having played so well in the autumn and dispatched New Zealand. But France have suddenly found a way to play. They've got expansive players. They've still got that massive power game. They've got Sean Edwards, who's got them defensively a lot tighter. It is going to be the best Six Nations I think there's ever been. These games are going to be so tight. Will it be a Grand Slam? It's going to be bloody hard. If someone does win it, fair play to them, tip of the hat. It's such a difficult thing to win. So I've been speculating and thinking about what to do with Freddie's flutter. He had a word with me earlier when he came back from school, and he actually reckons Scotland have probably got a little nudge on this. On the markets, you can get about 2.5 points, Scotland plus 2.5. So that the bookmakers think England will win. But there's probably a little bit of margin in there. It's going to be a tight game. I think all of the first two games will be tight. So get your money on Scotland plus 2.5. Take down England. This is the Dressing Gown Diary. There's 6 half of rugby to look forward to this weekend. Have a lot of fun. We'll catch you on the other side.